Welcome to another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetypes Support We Need. And today's episode is Sphinx monsters because more specifically this is light beast types of that archetype. It's just a group of three monsters that were used in the movie Pyramid of Light. I will get to it immediately. First, who are these Sphinx? Like I said, level 10 or higher beasts, like monsters. They have an easy summoning condition, and but for some reason they just do not have what it takes to be reliable. It's really hard to build a deck around it or make it somewhat competitive or fun to use. I will get to that when we get to the cards. Underwhelming boss design and effects don't match their enemy counterparts in terms of viability. So there are the relevant members. I skipped a card, but we'll get to that soon. We have Andra Sphinx and Sphinx Telea. And first you can normal summon them by tributing two monsters. Alternatively, when you control Pyramid of Light, you will get to that. You can pay 500 life points just to summon these. So if you control Pyramid of Light, you can just swarm the field with any number of copies of these cards. Sounds really powerful until you realize they cannot attack the turns they are summoned. As they cannot be summoned from the graveyard. Back then it was not such a big deal, because there were several cards where you can just summon them from the Banished Zone. And graveyard special summoning was kinda restricted anyways, so there were very few cards that let you do that, but for the amount of power you got, it felt fair at the time. But if you go in actual gameplay, they are really underwhelming. In Gold format, I tried building decks around these guys, and something is missing. And obviously, if we think about support, it's not gonna be affecting Gold format, because Gold format is a fixed card format. You cannot add new cards to the format. Also, they have battle effects, and battle effects are really bad. Specifically, these two need to destroy a monster in defense mode to get their effects. Andra Sphinx, if he swings a monster, half of the attack is dealt to the opponent of the monster destroyed, and Sphinx Talea does that with defense. So if she destroys a monster in defense position, the opponent loses life points, halves the defense. That was before Flame Wingman and stuff came out, so it was considered powerful enough. Especially these stats are really high, so take it as you will. Then we have Tynan, the Great Sphinx, which has a special summoning conditions that can only be achieved if the first two are removed from the field at the same time. So either you Dark Hole or your opponent uses Raigeki or whatnot. Then you can just summon this card from the deck or hand. It's a monster that can summon itself from the deck with its own effects. There are very few of these. But you have to pay 500 life points to do that, and you have to pay 500 life points to activate its floating effect. When it's summoned, pay that life point, and it gains 3 stacks as well. So the turn it's summoned, it's 6,500 attack, which is big, but the reward you're getting for all the trouble is kinda disappointing. So what is this Pyramid of Light? Pyramid of Light is a trap card that has only a negative effect. So if this card is removed from the field, ban it, destroy Andra Sphinx and Telea, and banish them from the game. So banishing is not a problem because you cannot special summon them from the graveyard anyways, and in Gold format you can just use Dimension Fusion to special summon them. But in the movie, it had another effect, which is just remove all the god cards from play. Obviously, you could not play print that effect because the god cards were playable god cards didn't exist at the time. So this card was kinda, even if it had the movie effect, it would be useless. And by today's standards, you probably don't even want the movie effects. But maybe we can make it kind of work with it adaptation, with an adaptation. Maybe we can boost Pyramid of Light somehow, but that remains to be seen. First, let's talk about Tynant's anime effect, and why it was disappointing, how its um, printed effect just doesn't do it justice. It has the same summoning condition, but also when this card is summoned, you can pay where you pay twice the life points you normally do, but it gains the attack of all monsters in your graveyard until the end of this turn. Um, do we want this effect that we can discuss it later? But first, how do we fix this? Adapt some of the anime protection. They create a new version of Tainen and ease activation of Pyramid of Light and beneficial effects while on the field. The Pyramid of Light was treated as a big deal, as a god killer card, but it's just a generic self-punishing card itself. So you have to make cards around making it viable. So that's what we might be going for. First, some custom cards I came up with. Maybe you have better ideas. So Millennium Awakening, reveal 1 level 10 light beast monster in your hand, draw 2 cards, and then if it's a Sphinx monster, you can just set 1 Pyramid of Light from your deck directly. So you maybe go +3 because you have so many bricks, so any additional draw card advantage is fair game, I feel. A Millennium Field, it's the training wheel for Pyramid of Light deck. You can immediately set after activation Pyramid of Light from your deck or graveyard. So I made 2 cards that do that. Sphinx monsters can attack the turns they are summoned. Your opponent cannot target them with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. When you activate Pyramid of Light, you can just banish all your also opponent's monsters. I think for the fact you have to run a freaking trap card that doesn't even do anything by itself, I think that's a effect worth having, because in the movie when Kaiba used it, just banish all the god cards. But I didn't want to restrict it to god cards, so that's why I came up with this effect. All your light beast monsters gains the following effect. Effect of a monster that battles this card is negated. So Thailand in the anime had the effect that Tilea in the anime has the effect that a monster she battles, her self-effect were completely negated. So I thought, okay, that's kind of gives that effect for all of them. Forbidden Card of Anubis. Anubis just put Pyramid of Light in the briefcase of Pegasus, so that's a reference to that basically. When this card is activated, you can add 1 Sphinx from your deck or graveyard to your hand, because you cannot summon them from the graveyard. While you control Pyramid of Light, your opponent cannot summon monsters in attacking position, so this is a way to get the most out of the Sphinx defense and destruction effects. If this card leaves the field, you can just summon any light beast Sphinx monster from your deck, ignoring the summoning condition, and this gives you incentive to run Tainen if you want to. You probably don't want to, but I made a few more cards that give you incentive to run the boss monster, even if that monster is not really the best one. So the last custom card is Tynant's in Unbound Sphinx. This is a fusion monster, which you can summon by sending the monsters listed as fusion materials from your field to the graveyard if you wanted the alternative summoning condition I came up with. It's unaffected by trap cards, which gives it protection from Pyramid of Light's negative effect. That's why it exists. Once per turn, you can send one Pyramid of Light from your field to the graveyard to increase this attack for the attack of every monster in your graveyard. And this effect lasts until the end phase. If this card leaves the field, you can special summon and sign in from deckhand or graveyard, ignoring its summoning condition. And last but not least, Anubis, the Lord of the Sphinx. Lord of Sphinx is the only dark monster because I cannot. Its design, everything is just. It doesn't scream light. So I decided to make it dark so it won't benefit from all the effects, but I think it has enough protection. If you have Pyramid of Light on the field, when you graveyard, you can just special summon by paying 1000 life points. While this card is face up on the field, player can special summon monsters from the graveyard or extra deck. This card is unaffected by the effects of non-light monsters and by effects of trap cards. Once per turn, you can just send one light beast monster from your hand to the graveyard. This card attack increases by the attack or defense, whichever is higher, until the end phase. Obviously, of the discarded card, but yeah, I kind of forgot to probably put it in. So this is a new boss monster basically, and I think that's pretty much it. This deck really makes you want to play the trap cards as a trap card Pyramid of Light. I think there's a lot of beneficial effects which reward you for using it. Tynan, similarly, the trap protection prevents Pyramid of Light backfiring. And it gives you incentive to maybe run Tynan, but it's probably not necessary to use it anymore. So what do you think? Do you have alternatives? Maybe you have better ideas what you do. I have seen a few custom cards, but I tried to not adapt or copy abilities and cards from other people. They had some unique custom arts, but since I have no I cannot make unique designs, I decided to kind of restrict myself to what we have in the animes and try to take some screenshots to put them on the card. Let me know what you think, and we will see each other hopefully next time for another episode of UV Archetype support we need. Goodbye.